our guest of honor. But first, I get to say a couple of words to us, Marines, U.S. Marines, us Marines. I've got a prepared script, and I'm going to deviate from it, which is going to make my staff very uncomfortable. But I'm gonna wing it here in front of the Vice President. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell one story. And it's a story that I've told before, but not too many times, because frankly, it's kind of hard to get through. But it boils down the essence of being a Marine. I was the battalion commander for 1st Battalion, 5th Marines in 2005 in the city called Ramadi. And you know, 1-5 was in the heart of the Sunni insurgency, and we were taking daily casualties, and it was a day-on, stay-on gunfight. And I had 2 twin brothers in my battalion, the Jaime brothers, Jesse and Joel, and they were both assigned to Alpha Company. And one night I was at the government center in the center of Ramadi, and I heard a very large explosion. And one of our Humvees had been hit by an IED, and a couple Marines had been killed. Actually, all 5 Marines in the vehicle were killed. One of them was Corporal Jaime, Joel Jaime, or Jesse Jaime. And so I told his brother, after we got the bodies off the battlefield, I went down to the government center and picked up his brother, Joel, and I brought him back to Camp Ramadi. And I was kind of choking up. You know, I was a young battalion commander. Again, we were taking daily casualties. And as the body was taken on to the helicopter that was going to fly him back to Camp Fallujah, to the mortuary, and then fly them on back to Las Vegas, I took his brother out there in my Humvee, and I said, Corporal Jaime, I don't know what to say to you right now. And he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, sir, it's been my privilege to serve in this battalion. And he boarded a helicopter, and he flew his dead brother's body home to Las Vegas. Now, I don't know where we get the likes of Corporal Jaime. I don't think we deserve them. But the truth is, for our adversaries, we got lots of them. We got lots of them. And they're all willing to kill you. They're all willing to bring the fight to you. So if you mess with America, you're gonna get a bunch of Corporal Jaimes coming after you. And again, I've committed the ultimate foul because I haven't said all of our VIPs tonight, but everyone here is a VIP. And so we have U.S. senators here tonight. We have distinguished visitors, distinguished guests. We've got too many to name. We've got the former ACMAC, now the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Christopher Mo Mahoney. We have senators from the states of Montana. We got Senator Ernst from the great state of Indiana. We've got the Honorable Stephen Daines. We've got the Honorable Dan Sullivan, U.S. Senator from the great state of Alaska and a veteran Marine himself. Again, the list goes on. We've got Ambassador Sean O'Neill, Ambassador Designate to Thailand. The Honorable Hung Cao, Undersecretary of the Navy. General Dave Berger, former Commandant of the Marine Corps. And I'll end with this one. We got Sergeant Dakota Meyer, Medal of Honor recipient. We're all honored by your presence here today. So again, I'm going to skip my prepared remarks because I think when I tell the Corporal Jaime story, that epitomizes everything you need to know about our Marine Corps. And it epitomizes everything that is good about our Marine Corps. And it epitomizes everything that our adversaries need to understand about our Marine Corps. Because if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. And there's a saying, again, that nobody likes to fight, but somebody has to know how. But Marines do know how, and they do like to fight. They do like to fight. So Marines, on this, your 250th birthday, I wish you a happy birthday. I wish you 250 more. And I hope that we don't have to deal with any more Corporal Jaimes, but I'm afraid that we're going to. And I'm going to depend upon all of you, the leaders of this Corps, to have the mental, moral, and physical courage to do what is required when the time comes. When the time comes to stick a bayonet in our adversary's chest, I'm going to depend upon you to do it. And I know you will, and I know you can. Because we've been doing it for 250 years, and we're going to keep doing it for another X thousand years, because there's no end in sight to this Marine Corps. It is the biggest, baddest, most war-fighting organization on the face of the planet. It is all about lethality. It's all about war fighting. That's all we do. That's who we are. That's what we do. We war fight. We're Marines. That's all we do. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to get off the stage and I am going to simply introduce our guest of honor tonight, the Vice President of the United States, the Honorable J.D. Vance, a veteran Marine. Hoorah.
Thank you, Marines. It's great to be with you tonight. I want to thank our great Commandant, General Smith. Thank you so much for everything that you do for our Marine Corps. Let me ask you all, how we doing, Marines? That was pretty good. How we doing, Marines? That was better. That was better. Well, I figured I'd just stand up here and tell a lot of stories about the Marine Corps, because what else should we do when we're among friends on the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps than talk about the incredible stories that make our Corps great? And I'm so proud to be here. I'm so proud to be the first Vice President of the United States to have been a United States Marine. I'm proud to have so many of my dear friends from my own time in the United States Marine Corps, and I was joking with some of them earlier this evening. We were at a reception with generals and colonels and magistrates and noblemen, and I thought to myself that when we were at our last Marine Corps ball, we were drinking Jim Beam 8 stars with a bunch of corporals and lance corporals and sergeants. And now we're drinking fine wine with the Commandant of the Marine Corps. We've come pretty far, my friends. It's good to see you all. But the thing I love about the Marine Corps is that for 41 years, for the entire time that I have had the Marine Corps in the back of my mind, since I stepped foot on those yellow footprints in Parris Island, I was a 19-year-old kid. That entire time, the Marine Corps has kept me honest, and even tonight, the Marine Corps has kept me honest, because you saw our guest of honor, that incredible Iwo Jima veteran. Corporal, it's such an honor to be with you. And I was shaking his hand earlier and spending some time with him, and I said, "Sir, if you need to lean on me, if you need to grab onto me, please feel free to do so." And he said, "If you need to grab onto me, feel free to do so." And then I shook the hand of his fellow Iwo Jima veteran, because we have a corpsman here who served in Iwo Jima. And how much, Marines, do we love our corpsmen who keep us safe? We know that to our corpsmen, there is no illness so severe, no malady so significant that it cannot be cleared by 2 Motrin and a fresh pair of socks. But I shook the hand of this corpsman who's probably close to 100 years old. And he said, you know, we talked for a little bit, we chatted for a little bit. He said, you know, you have a very nice personality. And I'm a vain politician just like all the rest of them, and I really appreciated that. And then he said, what the hell is up with that beard? And I thought to myself, I'm the Vice President of the United States, and this guy is busting my balls for having a beard. But that, my friends, is what the Marine Corps does, whether we're a young Marine or an old Marine, whether we're a Lance Corporal born in 2006 or a veteran of Iwo Jima. The Marine Corps keeps us honest because it is the proudest organization of warfighters in the world, and we are proud to celebrate its 250th birthday. Now, I got this great big speech here. I could talk about Dan Daly. I could talk about Chesty Puller. I could talk about John Basilone. I could talk about all of the incredible Marines. I could talk about my friends, some of whom came home from Iraq or Afghanistan and a couple of whom didn't. We know that the reason why this organization is so special is fundamentally because we take the very best young Americans, we turn them into something even better, which is United States Marines, and we go and ask them, even when they're teenagers, even when they're not even old enough, some of them, to drink, we go and ask them to do the hardest thing in the world, which is to fight our nation's battles and to represent the United States all over the world in the proudest and most profound way possible. And I'm proud to tell you this evening that tonight, as we celebrate at the Commandant's Birthday Ball, from the young Marines to the old Marines, I, as your Vice President, am proud of you, and we're going to keep on winning America's wars for the next 250 years after this. Now, I remember when my cousin Rachel, she's my older cousin, my grandmother's eldest grandchild, when she encouraged me to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, and at the time it sounded like the craziest idea I had ever heard. I couldn't run a mile, much less 3 miles, and I never thought to myself that I could join the military, but I'm telling you that the confidence the Marine Corps gave me, the trajectory that it set me on, has started, again, from those yellow footprints in Parris Island, led me directly from where I was then to where I stand today. And it wasn't always an easy journey, of course, these things never are, but I remember, for example, my very first Marine Corps birthday as a young recruit in Parris Island. I went to boot camp in September of 2003, and so, of course, my first Marine Corps birthday was in Parris Island. Now, I'll tell you a little story. At the time, I thought that I was deathly allergic to shellfish. And the reason I thought I was deathly allergic to shellfish is because when I was 16 or 17, I had some terrible allergic reaction. I assumed it was because of shellfish, and for 2 years, I had not touched shellfish. I thought it was the thing that was going to kill me. And so on November the 10th in Parris Island, South Carolina, I was sitting there and they served steak and lobster. And you all know, y'all were recruits. You know how hungry young recruits get? And I thought to myself, well, on the one hand, I could be hungry and maybe save my life. On the other hand, I could roll the die with this lobster, and the very worst thing that's probably going to happen to me is a corpsman's going to take care of me. I'll get to sleep in tomorrow. And so what did my dumb ass do? I ate the lobster, and I was fine, and I haven't been allergic to shellfish ever since. So one of the great things the Marine Corps can do is it can apparently cure a shellfish allergy. There are so many things I'm proud of about this Corps. One of the things I'm proud of is that the life that the attitude and the life of service continues from the people who become generals in our Marine Corps to sergeant majors in our Marine Corps to the people who get out and lead in the civilian world. My dear friend Dave Warrington is here, the White House counsel. I'm going to embarrass Dave a little bit because though he's one of the most important people in our White House team, a brilliant lawyer, a very proud Marine, I didn't know until tonight that young David, his son, is a captain of Marines, and he's here with us tonight. So let's give it up for a family of service. There he is. Going to embarrass my friend a little bit, and of course, you all know that, you know, when you get around soldiers and sailors and airmen, we like to poke fun at each other. And I was talking to an Army colonel in the White House not too long ago, and I said, "Colonel, you know what they call a soldier with an IQ of 80?" And he said, "What, sir?" And I said, "They call him a colonel." and he chuckled. And then he said, "You know what they call a Marine with an IQ of 60? I said, "What's that, Colonel?" He said, "The Vice President of the United States." And guess what, Colonel? I've got the last laugh because your ass is going to Siberia on diplomatic duty. So I hope you had your fun in the West Wing, but unfortunately, I get the final say. That's one of the good things about this job. But let me just say, first of all, from our Department of War Secretary, Pete Hegseth, a great soldier, but a person I know who loves the Marines deeply, and of course, from the President of the United States. They are proud of you. They know that the United States Marine Corps is the greatest weapon the political leadership of this country has. And when you hear this phrase, peace through strength, we are fighting for peace every single day in the White House, every single day in the Oval Office. We achieve peace because you, the Marine Corps, are our strength, and we won't forget it, and we never have. Thank you, Marines. And I know we're going to do a little toast with a comment on here, but I just want to say something else, because there are two things that your political leadership cares a great deal about. I have to put on my vice president hat and tell you about it, because one of the mistakes that I think we made over the past 40 years, over my entire life, and let's be honest, it was Democrats and Republicans, this is not even a partisan point, is that we were too willing to send our Marines and our soldiers and everybody else off to war without giving you clear guidance about what you needed to do and clear guidelines for when you would come home. And that is one thing the President of the United States and everybody in the White House, we promise we will never do. When we send you off to fight our nation's battles, we will do it with full confidence. We will give you the knowledge and the tools you need to win, and we will make it clear that your job is to kick the enemy's ass and come back home safely. That is our sacred promise from the President of the United States on down. That's what we owe every single one of you, is a clear mission and a clear promise that when you do that mission, you're going to come home safely. That's the first point that I want to make. And I want to make a second point, because we live in an era of technology. You saw it in that incredible video. I forget who even said it, but he said, you know, in World War II, we had planes, we had boats, we had tanks, and we had Marines, and here we are in 2025, 80 years later, and we still got tanks, we got boats, we got airplanes, and we got United States Marines. But let's be honest, we all know the battlefield has changed in an incredible and profound way. We've got technology that would have been inconceivable even when I was a little kid, is now driving the face of the modern battlefield. We got cybersecurity, we got satellites in space, we got artificial intelligence, we've got all this incredible technology. And of course, the United States is the most significant leader of technology in the world. But I happen to believe that the most important warfighting technology is not a new airplane. The most important warfighting technology is not artificial intelligence or anything on a computer. The most important warfighting technology is a well-trained and well-armed United States Marine, and we won't forget it. So let me say, Marines, at the age of 250, Not a single one of you looks older than 249. You look pretty good out there. This is a good-looking crowd. But I just want to say that everything the Marine Corps has done for me, the Marine Corps gave me great training. It gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me lifelong friends that across the political spectrum, just in the table of people that were dear friends of mine during the United States, my own Marine Corps service. We've got radical leftists and radical right-wingers, and we're all dear friends because we all bleed the same Marine Corps green. The Marine Corps has done a lot for me. The Marine Corps has done more for me than I can possibly repay. But the thing that I promise, so long as I have the honor of being your vice president, is that I will continue to honor the United States Marine Corps. I will continue to remember that you are the most profound warfighting technology that exists on the planet Earth, and I will fight every single day on this 250th birthday of the United States Marines to make sure that the next 250 years is just as damn proud as the first 250. Happy birthday, Marines. It's an honor to be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join Vice President J.D. Vance as he offers a toast in honor of the 250th birthday of the United States Marine Corps.
All right, Marines, I'm going to keep this simple and keep this sweet because I'm the last thing standing between you and a very delicious glass of champagne. But let's raise our glass from Chesty Puller to everybody else, for every Marine who came home and every Marine who didn't. Here's to 250 more years of our glorious Marine Corps. God bless you. Great.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. We've become friends, actually, through the trials and tribulations of everything. Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO, highly respected. Every country, almost every country in Europe. I think you can almost take away the almost pretty soon. No. But they all have great respect for the leader, and he is the leader. And we've had some very good discussions today, and things are going along pretty well as regarding Ukraine, Russia. We thought it would be a little bit easier. That's turned out to be tougher than the Middle East. The Middle East was supposed to be the tough one, and we've solved that puzzle, but this one will get solved also. So I want to just say it's an honor to have you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for hosting again. And we were texting, I think it was on the day when you were in Israel and in Egypt, this tremendous success you had under your leadership, bringing peace to the Middle East.
Thank you.
And then we texted each other and said, and the next big thing has to be Ukraine, Russia. And I want to help, NATO wants to help, my colleagues want to help to basically deliver on your vision of peace in Ukraine. And I really want to thank you for everything you're doing, including breaking the deadlock with Putin, starting the dialogue in February when you came in as president in January, but also for everything you did with NATO, the fact that we are now at this 5%, the huge success in The Hague at the NATO summit, the fact that Europeans are also stepping up when it comes to Ukraine, basically the weapons from the US being delivered to Ukraine, paid for by allies, and the Europeans coming together to discuss how can we sustain Ukraine post the peace deal. All of this is evidence of your leadership of pushing the Europeans and the Canadians to do more, to deliver, and to equalize in spending with the US. So on all of this, and today we will talk more on how we can really bring Ukraine to the next phase and get this terrible war, and all the bloodshed ended.
And as you know, we are going to be making a big trip next week. Some of you are going with us. We'll be going to Malaysia, South Korea, and Japan. In South Korea, I'll be meeting with President Xi of China. We'll have a pretty long meeting scheduled. We can work out a lot of our questions and our doubts and our tremendous assets together. So we look forward to that. I think something will work out. We have a very good relationship, but that'll be a big one. We canceled the meeting with President Putin. It didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like we were going to get to the place we have to get, so I canceled it. But we'll do it in the future. But next week we'll be with many of you in those locations that I told you. Then it's back to Washington. So thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you tell us a little bit about why you're elevating sanctions against Russia right now?
I just felt it was time. We've waited a long time. I thought that we'd go long before the Middle East. And Mark, as you know, we did the Middle East +7. So we did 7 different wars from Pakistan and India to so many.
Azerbaijan, Armenia.
Which they said was impossible to do. All these wars I did, and the one that we have left, we have 1 left. It'll be 9. We have 1 left, and I think we'll get that done too. I think we're on our way to getting it done.
We have to.
Mr. President, do you have a timeline for when you think the story is going to be over because of your leadership?
No, I don't have a timeline. You can't have in war. It's hard to have a timeline. You know, so many things happen in war. Go ahead.
What about Tomahawk missiles? Putin is definitely
Well,
afraid
the
of
problem with the Tomahawk that a lot of people don't know, it'll take a minimum of 6 months, usually a year, to learn how to use them. They're highly complex. So the only way a Tomahawk is going to be shot is if we shot it, and we're not going to do that. But there is a tremendous learning curve with the Tomahawk. It's a very powerful weapon, very accurate weapon, and maybe that's what makes it so complex. But it will take a year. It takes a year of intense training to learn how to use it. And we know how to use it, and we're not going to be teaching other people. It's too far out into the future.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
I saw, Mr. President, that you said as recently as yesterday that you still believe that Putin wants to end the war.
Yeah,
And today
I do.
You took this step to ratchet the sanctions and put more pressure on him. What else are you going to do to encourage him to get there, or can you explain why you do believe he wants peace?
Yeah, it's a good question. Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their 2 big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. We just answered having to do with the various forms of missiles and everything else that we're looking at. But we don't think that's going to be necessary. We would like to see them just take the line that has been formed over quite a long period of time and go and let's go home. Last week they had almost 8,000 soldiers killed. Many Russians were killed last week. Many Ukrainians were killed last week. We think it's ridiculous and would like to have it end.
Why do you think he wants peace, though? Why do you still believe that?
I think they want peace. I think they both want peace at this point. It's been, it's almost 4 years. You're going into 4 years. And if I were president, it never would have started. But yeah, it's time.
Mr. President, on the shutdown, will you plan to meet with Democrats before you head to Asia? And if not, why not meet with Democrats?
Well, I think it's a shame that it's shut down because we have the greatest economy, as you were saying before. We have the greatest economy in the world right now, by far, the United States. We have almost 18, now it was 17, now it's $18 trillion being poured into our country, and it's no time for shutdowns. I don't think it's affecting what we're doing, but it's too bad for a lot of people. We have a lot of good people that aren't working right now that should be, and it's because the Democrats want to try and renegotiate a deal that they had negotiated. They want $1.5 trillion given to illegal immigrants who came into the country, and it's going to hurt the health care of citizens of our country that have been paying into it, that have been working hard for it, that really deserve it. So we're never going to do that. It's not going to happen. And I will tell you, there are a lot of good Democrats that really want to make a deal. And I think all we need is 5 Democrats because we have a great support on the Republican side. So I think we need 5 Democrats, and there are a lot of them that want to make a deal. So I think at some point, common sense will prevail. Yeah, go ahead, you can finish up.
On the drug boat strike, the Eastern Pacific,
Yeah.
can you explain to us what that was about, how it was conducted?
Yeah, sure. Well, they had one today in the Pacific. And the way I look at it, every time I look, because it is violent, and it is it's amazing that the weaponry, that everyone, they have these boats that go 45, 50 miles an hour in the water. And when you look at the accuracy and the power, look, we have the greatest military in the world. We have the greatest weapons in the world, and you see a little bit of it there. One shot, everyone dead center. And the only way you can't feel bad about it is you realize that you won't feel badly about it, is you realize that every time you see that happen, you're saving 25,000 American lives. Every one of those boats that gets knocked out is saving 25,000 American lives, not to mention the torn up families all over the country. And whenever I see that, I say to myself, I just saved 25,000 lives. I will say that there are very few boats traveling on the water right now. Actually, that includes fishing boats, that includes any other kind of boat. But there are very few boats traveling on the water. So now they'll come in by land to a lesser extent, and they will be hit on land also. Go ahead, in the back, please.
Do you have legal authority if they do come?
Yes, we do. We have legal authority, right? We're allowed to do that. And if we do by land, we may go back to Congress, but we have, this is a national security problem. They killed 300,000 people last year, these drugs coming in. They killed 300,000 Americans last year, and that gives you legal authority. We have a national security, really, I will say this, when you look at the people we're dealing with, and we know them, we know the people coming in, we know the boats, we know everything else, we're allowed to do it. It's in international waters. If we don't do it, we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of people. Now, they'll be coming in by land a little bit more because they're not coming in by boat anymore. There are no boats in the water. There are no more boats. We know the boat almost immediately. You know, it's pretty unusual when you see somebody with a fishing rod and 5 engines on the back of the boat. You know, you don't need that to go fishing. Wait. And we will hit them very hard when they come in by land. And they haven't experienced that yet, but now we're totally prepared to do that. We'll probably go back to Congress and explain exactly what we're doing when we come to the land. We don't have to do that, but I think, Marco, I'd like to do that. You may respond to that if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, the question is, bottom line, these are drug boats. If people want to stop seeing drug boats blow up, stop sending drugs to the United States.
Does it matter if it's in the United States?
Well, these are all in international waters. The boat.
If you do a strike in the United States, or if we're the.
Well, that's a different matter. Now you're talking about a law enforcement matter. In this particular case, there are people traveling on international waters headed towards the United States with hostilities in mind, which includes flooding our country with dangerous, deadly drugs. And they're going to be stopped. And that's what's happening. And in the case last week, you saw there was a submarine. It was a submarine. It was a submersible. That's a drug boat all the way through. We know what these boats are. The president just said it. We track them from the very beginning. We know who's on them, who they are, where they're coming from, what they have on them. You know, if you're running drug boats, you're in grave danger.
And drug usage is way down. And drug usage coming from the sea, they call it ocean drugs, a little term that they use, the ocean drugs, is very close to non-existent right now. I wouldn't want to be in one of those boats heading away. You know, they're driving happily to destroy the lives of people, and they end up, that's the end of them. So the ocean drugs and the sea drugs, drugs by sea they call it also, that's almost down to nothing, as you can imagine. So they continue to come in by land at a little bit less because they see something is going to happen. They don't like it. They see something, and they're right. Something very serious is going to happen. The equivalent of what's happening by sea. And we're going to Congress just to tell them what we're doing, just to keep them informed. So we have to do it for national security. We have to do it to save lives.
Secretary Bessent said that Vladimir Putin had not been honest and forthright in his talks with you. Just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your feelings about that, and also, if I may, to Mimir Rutte, just your thoughts on whether Ukraine should get tomahawks. Thank you.
Well, I think that in terms of honesty, the only thing I can say is every time I speak with Vladimir, I have good conversations, and then they don't go anywhere. They just don't go anywhere. So in that sense, but no, look, he's fighting a war. He's in a war. That's two very competent sides, and that's the way war is. You never know with war, but I would say that it's time to make a deal. A lot of people are dying. You know, they're not Americans, but they're people. They're souls, and they're dying by the thousands, worst since World War II, and we really should stop it.
And to your other question,
yes. Please.
Sorry, to your other question, this has been consistent from this president when we first met again after your re-election in Mar-a-Lago in November. You said we have to stop the killing. This is close to your heart, and this is your vision. That's why this war needs to end. When it comes to tomahawks or whatever system, it's up to individual nations to decide whatever they want to supply to Ukraine. NATO doesn't take a position, but I can assure you this. When the president called me in July and said we want to again send weapons into Ukraine, paid for by our allies, the Canadians and the Europeans, that was an important moment. And that is now taking place, and the ambassador, myself, we're working hard at this. Already a couple of $1 billion of weaponry into Ukraine from the US, paid for by allies. So I'm not going to comment on about the tomahawks, but when it comes to the US and all the support for Ukraine, it is there and it is close to the president's heart, and I know this.
I will say this, and Mark can say it better than anybody. The European nations and Canada have really pulled together, and it's beyond even that. I mean, it's really beyond that.
I was with the Australians and New Zealanders, Japan, they all
if you want to really add them up, we could really add them up. But NATO, basically, European and Canada, and a lot of other nations, they've really band together. They are not happy about what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. They're not happy at all. Neither am I.
Mr. President.
Jeff?
Sir, just changing this topic slightly, I see you've got the
Yeah.
model of the White House and the ballroom. Many people were surprised the entire East Wing is being demolished, because you had said initially that the ballroom would just touch or would not.
Well,
touch
certain areas
what
are being,
happened?
yeah,
Can you tell us what happened?
certain areas are being left. We determined that after really a tremendous amount of study with some of the best architects in the world, we determined that really knocking it down, trying to use a little section. The East Wing was not much. There was not much left from the original. It was over the course of 100 years, it was changed. The columns were removed, and it was a much different building. Then a story was added on in 1948, 1949. There was a story added on, which was not particularly nice. And the building was very, very much changed from what it was originally. It was never thought of as being much. It was a very small building. And rather than allowing that to hurt a very expensive, beautiful building that, frankly, they've been after for years. You have that. I brought these along so people could see, but it's, there's a relative, nobody's actually seen anything quite like it. I think it'll be one of the great ballrooms anywhere in the world. It's about $300 million. It's set to do many, many things, including meetings of foreign leaders, including the honoring of foreign leaders. You can see this. This is a plan. If it's got tables so that you honor a foreign leader, we have a proper space. Right now, we have a space that with tables holds about 79 people. And this is a proper kind of a thing. Now, what the White House was doing, as you know, is they were putting tents out on the lawn. This is an interior shot of the ballroom. I think there'll be nothing like it. And it's being paid for 100% by me and some friends of mine, donors to it. The government's paying absolutely nothing. We're also working with the military on it because they want to make sure everything's perfect. And the military is very much involved in this. They want to make sure everything is absolutely beautiful. You can see the kind of interiors that we're talking about. That's an interior of the ballroom. And it's the highest level. And you see it goes beautifully with the White House. I mean, the mix is beautiful. So over the years, many presidents have made changes. This obviously would be the biggest change, but this was something they've wanted for at least 150 years. Many of you have gone to the events where they had, as an example, President Xi, or they had, a leader of one of the countries, including the king and the queen from your favorite country.
Absolutely.
Frankly. But where they'd be honored, and they'd be in a tent out on the lawn, and it would rain, and it was a disaster. Brian's shaking his head. You know what I'm talking about. And so I thought I'd bring this out because this is going to be probably the finest ballroom ever built, and we're doing it no cost to the country. It's being the money's being put in by me and donors, very great patriots actually, and the spirit on the building of it is amazing. We are using little sections of footings and various other things, but that's sort of irrelevant. In order to do it properly, we had to take down the existing structure. The way it was shown, it looked like we were touching the White House. We don't touch the White House. That's a bridge, a glass bridge, going from the White House to the ballroom. Then you get into the lobby of the ballroom, and then you go into the magnificent, the main room. And it's something that has gotten incredible reviews.
And you're just quickly following up on that, just quickly following up on that, sir. I just want a quick follow-up on that question. Your response to people who say that you haven't been transparent enough about this.
I haven't been transparent.
That some of your
Really?
critics feel it should have gone for a
I've
review.
shown this to everybody that would listen. Third-rate reporters didn't see it because they didn't look. You're a third-rate reporter, always have been.
I'm just
So
asking
third-rate reporters didn't look, but anybody that asked, these pictures have been in newspapers. They've been all over the place, and you know we're very proud of it. It's gotten great reviews. It's gotten really great reviews. So I think we've been more transparent than anybody's ever been.
Some critics.
Mr. President, that the sanctions that you're announcing today will push Putin to the
Well, I don't know that they will. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say. And we're going to find out. They hate each other. These two people hate each other. You know that better than anybody. And it makes it more difficult than it should be. This should be easier to do. But the level of hatred between Zelensky and Putin is very substantial.
Could I add one thing? What the president is doing today with these sanctions is putting more pressure, of course, on both parties, in this case on Russia. It's all about changing the calculus, making sure that Putin understands that the president's vision this weekend of having a ceasefire, stop where they are, as you literally said, that this has to be step one now. And for him to really accept that vision and to come to the table. And then you have to put pressure, and this is exactly what he did today.
Along with Europe. I mean, Europe, look, they've actually become friends of mine. I think
Yes.
all of them.
Yeah.
We have a very close relationship, and they want to see it end too. They really want to see it end. But I can say they're totally committed. If this went on for 10 more years, Europe is behind them. They just can't let that happen. You can't let what's been going on. Now, it should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. But it did happen. I inherited. This was Biden, a man who was, without question, you take a look at the new walkway, the presidential walk of fame, we call it. Biden is the worst president we've ever had, if he was even a president. The people that surrounded that desk made those decisions. But this should have never happened. It wouldn't have happened. But it did happen. I inherited it. We're going to get it ended, hopefully soon. Yes, please.
You had a Truth Social post earlier this afternoon talking about a Wall Street Journal report as a fake story.
Yeah,
It
fake.
sort of
Wall Street Journal is fake.
So this-
Less fake on financial than it is on gossip.
Can you just confirm that my understanding of what's happening is accurate? As I understand it, that story framed it like we had just lifted the U.S. a restriction on intelligence.
No, it said that I gave Ukraine permission to shoot missiles deep into Russia. I didn't do that. Second of all, they're not using our missiles. They're using, I think, European missiles or from someplace, but they're not using ours. And what they do, I don't control that. But I do control our missiles. They're not shooting our missiles in. It was a fake story. Wall Street Journal does a lot of fake stories.
Thank you so much. The president of Colombia in a recent interview said that if you won't change, he thinks that people should get rid of you.
We're talking about now Columbia, the country, not the university.
Yes.
Go ahead. He said what?
He said that if you won't change, then perhaps you need to be gotten rid of. Do you view that as a threat?
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia. Also, the school Colombia. No, we settled. We made a settlement with him. But no, he's a thug, and he's a bad guy, and he's hurt his country very badly. They're doing very poorly, Colombia. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They grow all sorts of crap that's drugs, bad drugs coming into the United States, goes generally through Mexico. And he better watch it or we'll take very serious action against him and his country. His country is, what he has led his country into is a death trap. Please.
Has the Secretary General presented his Ukraine peace plan to you? Are you prepared to be chairman of the board of peace?
Oh, there is no Secretary General peace plan. But I'm here, I really want to correct it because I saw some of that in the media. Of course, many people are thinking how to bring this terrible war to an end and supporting the President in doing that. Why I'm here is to dialogue again with the President how I can be, how NATO, my colleagues and other colleagues in NATO can be of maximum support to get that done. But there is no peace plan on the table. If there is a peace plan, it is what the President